Hello everyone, welcome on this e-learning platform of Apex Institute of Physics. And in this video we will have some questions involving capacitor circuits, and we will be learning how to solve those questions. Before we move ahead, there is a homework problem that I gave you in the previous video if you have tried. And the question was, there was a network of parallel plates given to us, and there were two terminals A and B, and we are supposed to find out the equivalent capacitance across point A and B. And the given quantities were A is the plate area, and epsilon naught is the medium permittivity, and D is the gap as shown in the figure. So I ask you to assume A epsilon naught by D as a C naught. Then we need to find what CAB is. So let's try to find using the same rule that we learned. What we are going to do, we are going to name these faces as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th, 7th and 8th. So if there are parallel plates, we can name each faces of the plates. And then we will be seeing a possibility of making the capacitor. The one face is not going to make any capacitor, 8th face is not going to make any capacitor, and there may be capacitor formed by these phases. And then we will be redrawing this in the form of circuits so that we can identify what the combination they are in, right? So let's start from the point A. So that's point A. Move ahead. We know these are the conductors. Conductors can always be redrawn, keeping the same connection. So from this we are going to connect phase number 2 and phase number 7. So let's say two phases that are supposed to make capacitor is a phase 2 and phase 7. So that's the 7th phase. That's a second phase, that's a 7th phase. Now first phase I'm not drawing because that's not going to make any capacitor. So this is a same conductor that we have drawn over here. Now this two phase is going to have third as a phase against it and making a capacitor. So third is going to be drawn here. So that's a 3. So 2 and 3 are going to make a capacitor. Now this 3 is connected with B. So that 3 is connected with B. So let's draw B somewhere. So this goes here, let's say it's there, and I'm drawing B over here. Let's say that's a B terminal. And with this 3 you will find there's going to be 4 as well. So we can draw the 4. Then there's going to be 5, there's going to be 6, and then we will have a 6 will be opposite to the phase 7. So for this is a 7th phase, so we will be having a 6th phase just against it to making a capacitor. So let's draw 6th phase over here. Let me draw it properly. Okay, let's say that's a 6th. Now this 6th is connected to B, so let's make this connection. So that's what it is. Now still we have some phases left, like 4, 5, 6. So what's going to be the case, like if we say this is from this we are connecting the phase 4, so let's say that's phase 4, and there's going to be phase 5 connected to B, so let's say that's 5, but this 5th is also connected to B. So you'll find the potential difference across this 4, 5 capacitor is going to be 0 because this is the same conductor, right? So that means this capacitor will not store any charge in it in future. So this capacitor is going to play no role in the circuit. So finding out equivalent, it has going to play no role, so we can say this could be scrapped. And if we scrap this, we are going to find only these two capacitors. Since C naught is the capacitance A epsilon naught by D, 2 and 3 plates are D separation, and 6 and 7 are also at D separation. So this is also going to be C naught capacitance, this is also going to be C naught capacitance. So can we say the equivalent capacitance between these 2 points A and B is going to be due to parallel combination of these two capacitors. And in case of parallel, we know we add up like C1 plus C2, so it's going to be C naught plus C naught. So that will be equal to twice C naught, which we can say in terms of given quantities as twice A epsilon naught divided by D. So that becomes our answer of equivalent capacitance. If you have done in this way, that's perfect. If you have any problem, then you need to understand the way I did. Here you might see originally that there is a one capacitor, another capacitor, another capacitor. So but effectively there are two capacitor and they are in parallel. This 4 and 5, they are basically a part of the same conductor. So plates connecting together will have a zero potential difference across them, just like this. So there will be zero charge storage. And if there is no potential difference coming across a capacitor, then we say that capacitor has no role in the circuit, so we can remove it. Even if you remove this, it will have no difference, or it will make no difference in the circuit, right? So that's our answer. I can assume that you have got it. If you have got it, we can go ahead. So here is an example that will be using the concept that we learned so far in conductors and capacitors. So question reads like this: 3 initially uncharged capacitors are connected in series as shown in figure, and this circuit is connected with a battery of EMF 30 volt. We need to find the following. We need to answer these 1, 2, 3, 4 parts of this question. Now let's try to understand the terms that have been used over here. It says 3 initially uncharged. Initially uncharged means these capacitors that have been connected have zero charge initially. That means initially there is no potential difference, right? So since they have initially zero charge, so whatever the charge is going to come on this, that will become the final charge. That means when the charge is going to come over here, they will be charging from initially zero value. So that's the important information. And they are connected in series. We can justify or understand that they are in the series because the same charge is going to move through. And they have been connected with a battery of EMF 30 volts. So this is a 30 volt battery, and its EMF, electromotive force, that we talked about, that is 30 volt. We need to find the following. So let's talk about the first thing. This first thing is asking charge flown through the battery. So how to solve this kind of circuit we have talked about. So this is a positive terminal, this is a negative terminal of a battery. We will assume the battery is supplying a charge small q. If it is supplying this charge small q, so this will make a positive terminal, negative terminal, positive terminal, negative terminal, similarly positive terminal, negative terminal. All the capacitors are going to have a charge q, so they will be having the same charge. We have talked about how this charge distribution takes place. This charge goes on the plus plate and stay there, and because of this induction, minus q charge appears over here, so plus q charge moves ahead. Then again same thing happens, and ultimately the charge q returns back to the battery. This is how the charge can be assumed to be distributed in the circuit. Now when we talk about the first part, we simply are looking for the value of q. To find out the value of q, what we can do is we can use the Kirchhoff's laws. So using Kirchhoff's Loops law, and there is a single loop, so we can apply Loops law in that loop, and we can start, let's say we are starting from this terminal point and coming back to the same point, moving in this clockwise sense. So when we are moving from this point ahead, we will find 2 microfarad capacitor will be there. So potential drop in this capacitor is going to be q upon c. C is 2 microfarad. So I'm writing q in microcoulomb so that micros are over. Then we will move ahead and we will try to write another potential drop. So again we are moving from plus to minus, so that's a drop. So it's going to be q upon 3. Next we move, then we will get q upon 6. Then we will be saying further, when we are crossing this element of battery, then we will say that it's going to be from minus to plus. That means there is a gain in the potential, so we will put a minus, and that's a 30 equal to 0. Mind it, we are taking care of the units. This is in volt, SI unit. This is the charges are considered in microcoulombs, so that we are able to write these capacitance in microfarad. So micro and micro cancel out. That means from here, whatever the q is going to come is going to be in microcoulombs. Great. So we can go ahead. Now when we are moving ahead, then we can find out there, we can take this q as a common, and we can simplify these numbers, 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 6, and that's going to be equal to 30. So when we simplify this bracket number, we will find it's going to be, if we take denominator as a 6, so it's going to be 3 plus 2 plus 1, which again becomes 6. So 6 by 6 is 1. So ultimately from here we are going to get some quantity called Q, the charge, and that charge came out to be 30. Now this 30 is in micro, as we talked, coulomb. So that means the charge flown through the battery is going to be 30 microcoulomb. Once we got the charge flown through the battery, we will say this is the charge that will be stored in all the three capacitors. Because the same charge flows through these capacitors, they are in series combination. So this is how the first part is done. Once we are done with the first part, we can go for the next part as well. So let me draw a partition over here to discuss the next part. Now the second question says we need to talk about potential energy in 3 microfarad capacitor. So question number second can be answered, or part of the second can be answered as potential energy in 3 microfarad. So that's a 3 microfarad. What is the charge stored in this 3 microfarad? Is a Q. So what the potential energy in it is going to be? We know the potential energy of a capacitor is the charge stored in the capacitor, so the square of Q divided by 2C, C is the capacitance. So we are going to use this formula. Now we know a Q value, which is 30. So we will say 30 microcoulomb square divided by 2 into capacitance in microfarad. So capacitance is 3. Now here is a micro square, here is a micro. So micro square and micro will be divided. So 1 micro will be left. That means our answer will come in microjoule. So this will be in microjoule. Now we can simplify this number. This number is going to be 900 divided by this 2 into 3, that's 6. We can say this has to be divided, so it will become 150 microjoule. That means how much the energy is stored in this 3 microfarad capacitor. It's going to be 150 microjoule. So that's how we can give the answer of the second part. Now we can go for the next part and we can answer in a very similar fashion for that next part. That's a part number 3rd. And in third part it is asking about the total energy in the capacitor. Now we can find out this total energy in the capacitor in various ways. One, either by finding out the energy in each and every capacitor, and we can add them up. Just like we found the energy stored in the 3 microfarad in the second part, similarly we can find out the energy stored in the second 2 microfarad, and similarly on the 6 microfarad. So, and we can add it up to find the total. Otherwise, what else we can do? We can find out the total energy. U total is going to be equal to whatever the charge, because they are in series, right? So we can replace all these 3 capacitor by equivalent capacitor. So if we are replacing this by equivalent capacitor, that equivalent capacitor will also get the same charge Q. So we can directly say it's going to be Q square, the charge square, divided by 2 times C equivalent. Now we can find out the equivalent capacitance of this particular series circuit, and if you find that equivalent, then that value you can quickly calculate is going to be 1 microfarad, because this is series, so it's going to be 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 6, that's 1. So that's a 1 microfarad. So 1 microfarad will become the C equivalent. Hence we can say what the U total is going to be. So U total will become equal to the charge, which is 30 microcoulomb square, divided by 2 into capacitance, which is 1 microfarad. Again, microjoule will be our answer, or the unit, right? So if we simplify this in 900 by 2, which is 450 microjoule. So 450 microjoule is going to be the total energy stored in these capacitors combined together. And in the 3 microfarad, we calculated it to be 150 microjoule. Similarly, we could also calculate this by for 2 microfarad as well as 6 microfarad. Anyway, let's proceed to the last part of this question, which is 4th. And this 4th question says, find the heat produced in the circuit. Now, what the heat is going to be produced in the circuit? So for that sake, we can say heat produced is going to be equal to the work done by the battery minus energy stored in the circuit. So we can say, by using work energy theorem, heat produced, that could be a formula that you can remember. So heat produced in circuit is going to be equal to work done by the battery, because battery is doing work, minus energy stored in the circuit, that means U total. So whatever the total energy that has been stored in the circuit, and using the work done by the battery. So battery will supply some energy, and a part of that energy will be stored in the capacitor, and a part will be lost in the form of heat. If you remember the statement that we had earlier, that it is a 50% that is stored and 50% that is lost. So we can directly say the amount of heat is going to be same as the amount of energy stored in the capacitor, because 50% is stored in the capacitor and 50% work done by the battery is lost in the form of heat. Or either we can calculate it, because we know the formula of work done by a battery. What is the work done by a battery? It's Q into EMF of the battery. And what is the U total? U total we have already talked about, it's 450 microjoule. Now how much the charge that battery supplied? That charge we have calculated was 30 microcoulomb into what the EMF is, 30 volt, so that's a microjoule again, minus 450, and answer is in microjoule. So if you calculate this number, it's going to be 900 minus 450. Ultimately you are going to get as a 450 microjoules. So how much the heat is being lost in this particular example? So we will say 450 amount of heat, 450 microjoule amount of heat is being lost, and 450 microjoule amount of energy has been stored in nutshell. Hence the work done by the battery was 900 microjoule. So this is how we can talk about the energy stored, and we can also talk about how much the heat has been lost. And similarly we can talk about the total energy stored, heat loss. We can find out the energy stored in individual capacitors. We can talk about what the charge that the battery supplied, or what the charge is stored in different types of, or different capacitors. Once we know the charge, we can also talk about what the potential difference across each capacitor is. So generally the question will be asking either about the charge, or the potential difference, or the energy stored, or amount of work done by the battery, or maybe the heat loss. So this is the zone on which the questions come in, right? So you just follow it, that's sufficient. If you have doubt or question, you can comment on the comment section downside. Well, let's consider another example and try to solve this as well. And this is when switch is shifted from 1 to 2, then find the charge flown in the circuit and heat generated. So there are two diagrams I have shown. One is initial one, and another is the final one. So there is a switch. This switch is initially connected with point 1, and later on this switch has been shifted from point 1 to point 2, as shown in this figure. We need to find in this shifting, when the switch is shifted from one location to two location, that means in this circuit, when the circuit becomes like this, then what is the amount of charge that flown in the circuit. And we also need to find out how much the amount of heat will be generated in this shift process. So we will be solving this first circuit and then second circuit, and then we will trying to find it out, right? So let's talk about the first circuit. So in the first circuit, we will saying certain amount of charge must have gone through this way. So let's say that's a Q amount of the charge, or let's say called as a Q1, the charge initially 1. So when this charge goes from here, so it will be positive plate, this will be negative plate, this charge will be moving like this, then will come on this, and will pass through this, and will return to this, and this is how it will be circulating. Now these are the two batteries we are having, right? So batteries, they have their polarities by themselves, they are fixed polarities. So this is how we can assign the sign on these batteries, and this is the sign on the capacitor. Now we can go for the Loops law for this particular case. So as per the Loops law, Kirchhoff's Loops law, we will get one equation for this. Let's say we are starting from this point, in the sense the charge has been considered. So from here, when we pass through this, so it will be Q1 by C C is 2 microfarad. Again we are taking Q1 in microcoulomb terms, and then we'll be moving ahead. When we are moving from here to here, again the potential drop we are getting, so plus 5 is a potential drop. When we are passing through this battery, then there is a potential gain, so we'll say minus 10. Again we will reach to the same point, so sum of all the potential drop is equal to 0. That's law. If we carry with this, we are going to find it as a Q1 by 2 is equal to 5, which will let us know, that means which will tell us what is the initial charge on the capacitor, and we will find this initial charge in the capacitor is 10 microcoulomb. So when the switch was connected to point 1, then this capacitor had put the charge on it as a 10 microcoulomb. Okay, so that's the initial one. Now let's talk about what happens when we have changed the switch from 1 to 2. So in this case, when the switch has been changed from 1 to 2, let's solve that part over here. So let's say in this particular case, the charge that has flown through this battery is Q2. Now this charge Q2 has to move and gets accumulated over here. Now ultimately you will find this will be positive with the same charge Q2. This is going to be negative. Now we say Q2 charge has gone on this circuit after shifting. So that means we are looking for this Q2 value, right? So let's try to find it out. Okay, let me make this clear what this Q2 is. I'm considering Q2 is the charge supplied by the battery when the switch is shifted from 1 to 2. Now when this Q2 charge goes from this battery to this capacitor was not initially uncharged. It had initially charged as Q1. So it already had a Q1 charge on this plate. Now you are supplying a charge Q2 from this circuit, so this will have a now charge Q1 plus Q2. Why I'm saying Q1 plus Q2? Because Q2 is charge coming in. This was positive plate earlier, so again few charges going to come on it. So let's say assuming Q2 charge is going to come on it, so the total charge will become Q1 plus Q2, and you will find Q2 will be returning back from this path and reaching to the battery and fulfilling the condition of the battery to return the same charge. So Q2 charge is the new charge that has been flown in the circuit. That means one part of the question that we need to find the charge flown in the circuit is Q2. Now let's apply the Loops law for this particular case as well. So applying the Loops law for this case, we can find out what the Q2 is going to be. So it will be saying if we are starting from this and following the charge, so it's going to be Q1 plus Q2. That means charge on the capacitor divided by capacitance, which is 2 microfarad, minus 10, because we know this is minus then plus, and if we are moving in this clockwise sense, there's going to be gain, so that's this equal to 0, total has to be 0. So from here we will be finding Q1 plus Q2 as Q1 plus Q2 as 20. That's a 10 plus 2, or sorry, 10 into 2. That can be seen from here, 10 into 2, so that becomes 20 microcoulomb. Now if Q1 plus Q2 is 20 microcoulomb, and we already know what the Q1 is, 10 microcoulomb, so from here we will have one conclusion, and that conclusion is Q2 must be equal to 20 minus 10, that is 10 microcoulomb. So first part, which was asking about find the charge flown through the circuit, so we will say this is the charge that will be flowing through the circuit when the usage shift the switch from position 1 to position 2. Is it making sense? It should make sense. So what I did, let me re-explain. I initially assumed the charge Q1 on the circuit and solved for this Q1 using the Loops law. Then I assumed that Q2 charge is flown through this battery. Then the charge on the capacitor becomes Q1 plus Q2, because Q1 was initially charge it carried and Q2 is the new coming in. So this is the total charge. Applied the Loops law, Kirchhoff's law, we found out that total charge on this capacitor now has to be 20, and earlier it had 10. So what the next new charge that has come in on this is 10 microcoulomb, right? Fine. Once we have got this or understood this, we can go for the next part of it, which is asking about the amount of heat that has to be generated in this particular shift. So amount of heat, how to get the amount of heat? So for that sake we need to see what are the players which are involving heat. Now initially this system carried certain amount of energy in the form of potential energy. So that's the initial energy. We can find what the initial energy was. So if I had to find the initial energy stored, so stored energy initially, that means when the switch was shift with the point 1, we can say it's going to be Q1 square by Q1 square, that means charge on the capacitor square upon 2C. C is the capacitance. Again let's put the value of Q1 in microcoulomb, C in microfarad, so our answer will be in microjoule. So Q1 is 10, so we will be having 10 square of this divided by 2 into 2. 2 into that's 2. 2 is capacitance, right? So this become 4, so it's going to be 100 divided by 4, which will be equal to 25 microjoule. That means we are going to say initially 25 microjoule energy was stored in this particular capacitor, and this system was having this kind of energy initially. Now when we shifted this switch from 1 to 2, in this shift this capacitor now will have some another energy stored. So energy stored finally, on the capacitor is going to be equal to the charge on the capacitor, which is Q1 plus Q2 square divided by 2C. Now C is again 2, so 2 into 2. So let me write C, then we will calculate the values. Now this Q1 plus Q2 we just calculated was 20, so it's going to be 20 square divided by 2 into 2. That's 4. So it's going to be 20 square, which is 400 divided by this 40. So we are getting it as a 400 divided by 4. Pardon, this is going to be 2, not 20, right? Because capacitance is 2. So we will be making the correction. So it's going to be 2 into 2, that's 4. So this will turn up as 100 microjoule. So we have calculated the final energy on the capacitor, and we also understood the initial energy in the capacitor. So can we say what is the change in potential energy? If somebody asks what the change in potential energy is, we can say the change in potential energy is going to be final minus initial. Now final is 100, initial came out to be 25, so we can say 75 microjoule energy has come in to the increase in, or this is the increase in the stored potential energy in the capacitor. Right, so we have got to know how much the energy of the capacitor has gone by or gone up by. So that's increase in the potential energy of the capacitor in the circuit. Along with this, we need to find what the work done by the battery is in the particular or in this particular process. So work done by the battery is the charge supplied by the battery, which is Q2, and the EMF of the battery through which it has been supplied, it's a 10 volt. Now Q2 we have calculated, it was 10. So we can say it's going to be 10 into 10. Again unit will be microjoule, because we are placing this charge in a microcoulomb. So that's going to be 100 microjoule. So we can say the battery has supplied 100 microjoule energy to the circuit, and out of this 75 microjoule has gone in terms of increasing the stored energy. Hence the rest would have gone in form of heat. So we can say the amount of heat produced or heat generated is going to be equal to work done by the battery in the process minus change in stored energy in the capacitor. So we have got this work done as 100 microjoule minus this was 75 microjoule. So this is our answer. So we can say the heat produced in particular example is going to be 25 microjoule, and that's going to be equal to the difference between the work done by the battery and the change in stored energy. So this is how we can use the energy conservation or work energy theorem, whatever you call it, and this becomes an important relation to find out the heat produced. And this is how we can solve the cases in which switches are involved and these switches are being shifted. So idea is when the switch is connected to particular configuration, you just solve that configuration completely. Then wherever it is asked for the shifting the switch, you shift the switch and again solve this configuration separately. Keep in mind, if the capacitor is there in the earlier configuration, so whatever the charge it had earlier, it will carry with this charge to the new configuration. So initially that capacitor will have the same charge it had earlier in previous configuration, right? So that's what we are using. And then there's battery, and then the Loops law, everything you know that we have used over here. So I can assume that you have got it. You just read it, try to understand, try to solve by your own, you will get the same answer. Now let's take one more example in which a switch is involved, and let me solve it for you so that you become confident in these kind of questions. So the example says find the charge flown through the path 1, 2, 3 as shown in figure after closing switch S and heat generated in the circuit. So again we need to find the charge flowing through these paths once the switch is closed. So let's say this is the first case that we need to deal with this configuration, and in this switch is open, so no charge will flow through the path 2, and ultimately they will have a charge on these capacitor will have a charge. So let's take the charge on this particular configuration had been Q, small q. So that's the initial charge we are considering. So this capacitor will have a charge plus and minus, and the charge will be Q. Similarly, the charge will be moving like this, so this will be plus minus, again the charge will be Q, and this charge had been there. Now these are the two batteries. We know this is going to be positive terminal, negative terminal, positive terminal, negative terminal. We can solve this circuit by using the Loops law. So using the Loops law, we can write this equation. So let's say we are starting from this point and moving in the sense the charge is flowing. So from here we will find Q upon C, which is 6, plus Q upon C, which is 3, and then we are moving from minus to plus, so we will say this is a gain of potential, so minus 10. Again we are moving from minus to plus, so we will write minus 20. This is equal to 0. Fine. So we can simplify this. What this I have written is this is Kirchhoff's law, that's called Loops law, and using this Loops law we are trying to find out what the initial charge is. So if we take this Q as a common, we will find 1 by 6 plus 1 by 3. We can solve this number, and that side we are going to get as a 30. If we solve this, we are going to get it as a 1 by 2. So we will find is a Q by 2 is equal to 30. So from here we have found out what the charge in each capacitor is initially. It's a 60 microcoulomb. Fine. So that's a charge. Now let's talk about the second configuration when the switch is closed. So now the charge will be flowing through path 1, path 2 and path 3. So what we can say some sort of this thing, like let's say from this path Q1 charge has gone in. So this Q1 charge will be coming over here. Now this capacitor was initially charged, initially had a charge Q. So this will remain the plus plate and this will remain the minus. However, the charge now will become Q plus Q1 because Q1 charge has come in, Q was initially charged. Now this Q1 charge will move through this or will crossing here. If this Q1 charge is crossing over here, so there is a junction. In junction some charge might be moving in this way, some charge might be moving in this way. Now we can think of Q2 charge has flown through the second path, and this charge that is going over here is Q3. So if Q3 charge goes on this, so again this will be plus plate, this will be minus plate. Earlier it has a Q charge, so now this capacitor will have a charge Q plus Q3. Then you will find this branch will be having charge Q3 moving. This Q3 charge will be moving through this and this. So Q3 charge is flowing through here, Q2 is coming from there. So Q2 and Q3 when combined together, they will make it as a Q1, which was needed for these batteries to justify that it has left Q1, so it has to Q1 has to come in. This is how we can say the charge will be distributed. Now here we have assumed three quantities Q1, Q2, Q3, and we will be saying, as per this assumption, Q1 will be flowing through the path 1, Q2 will be flowing through the path 2, Q3 will be flowing through the path 3, and their directions have been shown over here. If their values are come out to be negative, then we will generally will be simply shifting the or making these directions opposite. Let's use the Loops laws and Kirchhoff's laws to simplify this particular configuration. Now if we use the junction law at this junction, we will say Q1 charge was coming in, it bifurcated into these two. So first equation that we are going to receive is Q1 is equal to Q2 plus Q3. That's going to be first, or you can say Kirchhoff's law, which is talking about the junction law. Then after, we will be using this loop, upper loop and lower loop, and we are going to write the equations for this. So let's write equation for the upper loop. So upper loop will have equation from here, you can say, or you can directly say this 20 volt will be across this capacitor. So we can say charge, which is Q plus Q1, divided by capacitance, which is 6. This will be equal to the battery potential difference, which is 20. If we solve this from here, we will get Q plus Q1, that come out to be 120. Now since we know the value of Q, so putting the value of Q from here, we will be able to find out the value of Q1. So value of Q1 will be equal to 120 minus 60. That's going to be 60 microcoulomb. And since it is positive, that means we will say from branch 1, which is shown over here, 60 microcoulomb charge will be flowing, and it will be flowing from left to right as shown in the figure. Now let's come to this downside loop and try to write down the Loops law on this, or we can say the potential difference across this capacitor is going to be 10 volt. So using the downside loop, we will say Q plus Q3 divided by its capacitance, which is 3 microfarad. This has to have a potential difference 10. So from here we will be saying Q plus Q3 will be equal to 30. Now Q that we have already calculated is a 60 microcoulomb. So if we place Q as a 60, so from here we can get the value of Q3. Q3 is going to come as minus 30. So minus 30 microcoulomb. This minus 30 microcoulomb will be saying, that means this minus 30 microcoulomb will be saying that the charge Q3 will be flowing in the opposite direction. So Q3 ultimately is going to move in this sense. That's how Q3 is going to move, that's what we can say. And how much it is going to have a magnitude, that's going to be 30 microcoulomb. Fine. Now using this Q3 and Q1 and using this equation, we can find out what the value of this another unknown, which is Q2, is going to be. So let's say use this over here and try to find out what the Q2 is. From here we say Q2 is going to be equal to Q1 minus Q3. Now Q1 we have calculated is come out to be 60, and Q3 that we have calculated is minus 30. Mind it, we are going to put the value of Q3 whatever we have calculated. It's just interpretation that we have used for the direction. Now this is going to be equal to 90 microcoulomb. That means Q2 came out to be positive. That means from this switch branch, 90 microcoulomb charge has to be flown, and that will be flowing from right direction to left direction. And Q3 will be from left to right, and Q1 will be from left to right. So this is how we can find out how much the charge from three different paths are going to flow. That means from the path 1 is going to be 60 microcoulomb in the sense shown. From path 2 is going to be 90 microcoulomb in the direction shown in the figure. And from the path 3 is going to be 30 microcoulomb from left to right. fine. This is how we can find out the charge flown through various branches of the circuit. Now let's talk about another part. For that sake I am drawing a partition. So another point is to talk about energy or heat. You can say heat, and it says the heat generated in the circuit. So again we will say heat generated is going to be equal to the work done by the battery minus loss in or change in energy or stored energy. So we can use this formula. Heat loss is going to be equal to the total work done by the battery in the system minus change in stored energy of the capacitors. So can we find out the stored energy of the capacitor in the initial case, and we can also find out in the final case, and we can also find out the work done by the battery. Now what the work done by the battery will be, there are two batteries. 20 volt will be releasing Q1 and 10 volt will be releasing Q3. So we can further simplify it, and we can say, so work done by the battery for the 20 volt is going to be Q1 into 20 volt plus Q3 into 10 volt, and then change in stored energy, that means final stored energy minus initial stored energy. Now since we have found out the charge initially and finally on the capacitors, we can easily find out what is U final stored energy. When we say final stored energy, that means including both the capacitors, and when we say initially, including both the capacitors. So you just find the values of final stored energy, initial stored energy, and Q1, Q2 we have already calculated. We can put here and we can find out what this value is going to be. So you just solve this and find out. So I can assume that you can make these calculations done and try this, solve this. After solving this you will get an answer, and this answer that you are supposed to get is 450 microjoule. So let me know in the comment box if you are getting this answer. If you are getting this answer 450 microjoule as a final answer of heat, that's going to be the correct one. And the idea is very simple: finding the total energy finally in final configuration, finding the total stored energy in the initial configuration. Q1, Q3 we have already calculated. Mind it, Q3 is a minus 30 microcoulomb, so we need to place it as a minus 30 microcoulomb. Right, so we need to simply put the value, simplify, we will get this amount as our answer. Fine. So this is another important example that you are supposed to understand. And finally, this is homework for you. Exactly similar question or based on the same concept. Here we are having C, 2C and C capacitors connected. There are two switches, S1 and S2, and then it has to be shift from 1 to 2. And then we need to find this. It says find charge flown through the battery and heat generated in the circuit after shifting switch from S1 to S2. So first solve this circuit in S1 combination. So you'll find these are in the parallel combination and this is separate, or you can start with the charge distributed and then shift this to S2, then solve the new circuit and then find what the charge has moved and this energy loss in the form of heat, right? And that's a good question. You should be able to try. You just give a try, and if you get your answer, so post your answer in the comment, and if all of you are getting the same answer, so it's going to be more likely correct, and if it is going to be like incorrect or it will require any correction, so I'm going to respond accordingly. So this is all about this video. In this video we learned how to solve these capacitor circuits, particularly in those circuits in which the heat involved is released or generated is involved, and these type of questions are popular for examination, so make your understanding better. If you have doubt, question, query, you can always ask. So that's all. Thank you for watching. Have a great time.